Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Monday and welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa with me, Chantal, your hostess, with definitely the mostest. We're going to be chatting with Beverly tonight about all sorts of amazing things, including the recent shenanigans around Charlie Kirk and, of course, the Ukrainian girl on the train. I mean, we're just going to be chatting with Beverly and see what her take on all of that is. I think we've all understood that this world is a crazy place right now and lots of things are going on. So we'll just take a breath, chat amongst ourselves, and breathe ourselves through it. That's for sure. Anyway, before I bring Beverly on, hello everybody. I want to say hello to you first before I even do that. Tammy, Jojo, Lisa D, awesome to see you guys and everyone else as well. Really cool to see you. Hope you all had an awesome weekend. Anyway, okay, so today is Monday. We have Beverly on. Tuesday, I am going to be recording with Penny Bradley again tomorrow, but won't be doing the live show. We'll be posting it during the course of the week. So just check the schedule for when Penny Bradley, SSP Survivor, Secret Space Program Survivor, Montauk, MK Ultra, brilliant information. Already done one show with her. So yeah, come check it out. What she has to say. If you guys haven't watched that show yet, please go and catch it. Okay, and then of course Wednesday, Jessie. I know we haven't had Jessie live for 2 weeks, so I'm sure everybody who loves Jessie will be happy to have Jessie back again on Wednesday. And of course, Dr. Dennis on Thursday, Holly Baglio on Friday, and then as I said, just check when Penny Bradley's show will be aired. I'll let you guys know later on during the course of the week. And then, of course, our regular Sunday loop, right? On Sunday, 6 p.m., which is the same time as now. And then, guys, just a little bit of a teaser. We got Gary Wayne coming back in October. Should I ask him about the sirens again? I'm just having fun. Hello, Beverly.
Hi, how are you? Hello to all the viewers and everyone in the chat.
It's so good to see you again. How's Americano treating you? I hope those Americanos are treating you well. Don't
Oh, they
make me
are.
teleport over there now.
Yeah, they are. And it's actually got a little bit cooler, although I still have short sleeves on, which is awesome. So, yeah, because when I go back to the UK in October, it's going to be cold. So that's going to be fun. I'm going to go from this boiling hot country to a freezing cold one. It's going to be
That's just a
so fun.
horrifying thought. That's
It
just a
is. I
horrifying
know.
thought. Ew.
I know. Grey skies. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I'm so used to waking up and having all the trees around and bright blue sky, sunshine all day. It's like, wow. It's one of those. It's like South African days, when I used to live in SA, South Africa. It was always sunny and nice and, bright and really
Yeah,
lovely.
we having that weather again. As you can see, it's getting decidedly warmer here,
Oh,
which is
good.
wonderful. And then I hope to still hear news that you will be for sure coming to South Africa towards
I'm
the end
getting all
of
the plans done, Shanti. We've got to do the hitchhike UFOs, and definitely because we've seen cryptids down in the Karoo, which is just past. I was in the combi, which is like an auto villa type. I don't know what you call them, one of those drivable caravan type things many years ago. But there was a cryptid that came up to the van, and it was ever so cute. And that was in the Karoo. So you never know. We might also go cryptid hunting.
Listen, I'm so game. I mean, like game on.
Yeah, we
I'm
can have lots of
definitely
fun.
definitely going to be good. And Johan, what's his name again? That Johan guy, the one that runs the country. What's his surname again? Come, tell
Oh, I
me.
don't.
Forgot.
That one.
That one, yeah. He mustn't think that, like, he should check his timeline, actually. to see when we're going to be there, because it's not us that is afraid of him. He must be scared.
That's true. I agree with you, especially the two of us. Here we go. Like the past lives, we just go after them. I'll go after the baddies. Why not? Why not?
Landing there in our cute spacesuit, spaceship, and I mean, I always say spacesuit because I just imagine we probably look quite cute. And we've got our wings now, haven't we? So that's
We
pretty
do.
cool.
We do have our wings now, which is the good thing. There's been so many. I mean, I've been getting tons of emails with individuals sending pictures of craft that they've seen in the sky. And they've been able to video them, they've got pictures of them, and they're flashing orange and yellow and different colors and these neon colors. And then there's one I got, which is the craft, and then inside the craft there's another circle inside, and you can see, and some of them are absolutely amazing. And it looks like, since this, we had the very rare the sixth planet alignment in August. I don't know if you remember that bit, but I think what we're going through now with all these changes, so that was Mercury, Uranus, Jupiter, Neptune, and Saturn. And now Saturn is returning. But we've got that whole issue now where people are realizing that the off world is the star people, whatever you would like to call them, our friends and brothers from the stars. They're all up there, and we're just being able to see them. And I think this is what has happened. We've had that amazing alignment of the six planets in August, and then we've had a number of eclipses. Plus, also, let's not forget, we've had the most solar flares that we've had for a very, very long time. And that is sending that micro energy, sending those waves down to the planet. And it's beginning to raise the vibration, not just of the whole planet, but of individuals. So that's part of the reason why we have lots of people saying, oh, there's so much happening at the moment, everything's happening to me. But it's happening across the planet. Everyone is complaining about this, either awful energy or chaotic energy.
Well, I think it's really the changing times, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Because as times change, it's like it's the birthing and the of the new age. Now, I'm not
Mm,
talking about the new age movement, okay?
no,
That's a very different thing. I'm talking about the new world, the new earth that we've
new
been
earth.
desiring. So where we really are in the high jump, where we have to make choices. We've got to make
Mhm.
like super important choices in our lives right now. And I think that really is what's speeding things up, because a lot of we're lazy. We're really, really lazy, as human beings. We will leave things until the last minute, mostly before life forces us to change. I see
Yeah,
that so often. And hey, guilty as charged in many situations, you know what I'm saying? And I think that really is where we're at as well. So it's always about to be spiritual alignment, spiritual attunement, um, spiritual fitness. We have to know who we are. We have to know what our path is. We don't, and it's not even about knowing the future. It's about knowing, trusting that the path we're on is the right one, even though it might not be an easy one, might
yeah,
not
sure.
be a straight one. As we know, there are many winding roads, right? But for me, it's really about understanding that the more intense the energy gets,
Yeah.
the greater the opportunity for transformation. I love that. I love it. Honestly, to me, it is amazing. And it's like we hear so much bad about what's going on and these creatures of
Mm,
the night coming in and they're going to do this. We must never forget there's the other side of that as well. Those creatures of the night, in my opinion, would not be coming in or having access unless we said, okay, buddy, come, show yourself. It is time. We tend to put ourselves on the back foot and go, ooh, we're shaking in our shoes and not knowing who's going to come around the corner next. I'm ready for whatever you are. Doesn't matter what
mm,
you are. you know when you're of the right alignment, that thing is gonna runs straight through you like you're a ghost. It doesn't even see you. It's,
That's very
that
true.
for me, yeah, that for me is what it's about right now. And as you were saying as well, there's a lot of solar flares and things coming
Mm,
in right now. I do totally believe that is God's way of giving us, we can't say God gives us solar flares to raise the vibration, if you want to look at it that way. We get opportunities to use that energy in a constructive way. So it is our free will and choice as to how we use that energy. Do we use it to burn the place down, or do we use it to burn away grief and rubble and, you know, rebuild from that? I don't know. What's your take on that?
I think you're absolutely right. And when I noticed, there was a few months ago, we had a number of solar flares that were one day after the next, and I kept seeing this and seeing this. And then the one day specifically, I was still in England at the time, and I looked up and I saw this very unusual cloud formation, and I saw this very a large cylinder, and I thought, what on earth is that? Now, not a craft, because I'm used to seeing the craft. That's not an issue anymore. But this was a funny cylinder, and then I saw this these long golden strands coming out of it. And I did my meditation, and I sat and said, what was actually happening at that time? And that was a number of the angelic realm coming down into the planet to assist with what is happening, because obviously the dark warriors need to be matched 1-to-1. Dark warriors versus light warriors has to be 1-for-1. There has to be as many as there are dark warriors, there have to be the
50-50,
light
yeah.
warriors as well. And this is what was happening, is during that huge electromagnetic field that came down, there was these little golden strands that were coming, and I was told that these were angelics that were coming down specifically to boost light warriors, light bridges, to help to remove some of the darkness that's there. So I was very pleased about that.
But what's also, and it is, but what's also important for people to remember and realize is absolutely we're getting, call it cosmic help, right? For
Yes.
sure. It has to be that way. It can't be another way. But our bodies have to be at the resonance where we can receive that cosmic help, right?
Yes.
And let it be the right fuel for us. That cosmic help, I see, is fuel for us to move in directions, right, that we need to. So we've got to be open to receiving that fuel or that help or that information, right? And I think that's why so many people are having so many wake ups and shake ups,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's like that earthquake, like shake away everything that is no longer needed. It's a very scary process for some of us, because it literally can feel like death, but it's not a physical death. It's a death of the old, that the life or the ideas or the people or the job or the whatever it was that we're now leaving behind,
Yeah.
and choosing a reborn or a rebirthed state of being. In other words, a new state of being, new ways. We've changed, we've transformed. So that's what it's about. And so many people are so fearful of letting their old ways go.
Yeah.
And we so need to let the old go in order for us to resonate with what God, divine creator, God of light, has available for us. But we can't receive it while we're still in a place of
Yes.
toxic fear,
Mm.
because that toxic fear holds us down. And then you may as well be trying to grab a cloud. You can't hold on to a cloud. It's there, it's beautiful, it looks fantastic, but sure,
Yeah. Not going to be able to grab that. Yeah,
Exactly. I've got to
I agree with
perceive it.
you. Yeah.
It's a
Well, it's the old
perception.
adage, isn't it? It's the old
Yeah.
adage. You can't, if that cup is full already, you can't, you have to empty some of it out in order to add. You can't keep trying, it'll just keep overflowing and you'll never be able to do it. So I think a lot of these changes are just reminding people this is where you are, you're almost full. In order to make those changes, align the chakras, and whatever creator, source, God, whatever you would like to call that bright light energy, is sending everything to this planet. Because we've got about, I reckon there's about 280 to 300 craft that I'm aware of that are around the earth at the moment, because they're stationed and positioned. Because we're now no longer on the no-fly zone. Because for many, many, many years, when I lived in South Africa, the ones that used to pop down, they were breaking all the universal laws, coming down into the earth and then going off again. Because, Earth was on the no-fly zone for so many centuries. Off-worlders and star beings were not allowed to come here. There was a directive that said, leave the earth beings alone. They're busy, they're growing.
Why?
Because we were growing. If you think about it, sort of during the Bronze Age and during the Industrial Revolution and all of those areas where human beings were growing, they needed to grow to a point. And this is why we were left on the no-fly zone. So they were so used to going past us and going to other planets, they never came here. But now we're not on the no-fly zone anymore. We're off that. So it's easy for those to be able to station at a high altitude and then have a look and see what are these humans doing. Because human beings are pitched as the new universal warriors. We are the new universal individuals that are going to take our place amongst the stars and be able to do the work that we have to do in order to assist other races, other beings. And then our DNA will wake up and move and align to a higher vibration. And that's all coming. We've also got the issue now with, a lot of people are worried about sort of like Planet X, which is Planet 9, or sometimes called Nibiru. They were looking at that and saying, well, how far is Nibiru? Where is it, more or less? And, there's a lot of questions around that. And then we've also got the issues around, we've got a lot of souls coming through from Lemuria and Atlantis. They're coming back now. They're bringing their information back, and they're coming back partially awakened. Some new babies are already fully awakened. They're fully ascended. They're fully awakened. All their DNA is ready, alive. Fantastic. So, and you can see it because when you see sometimes in the supermarket, we went down to a place called, it was called Publix. And I've never been there before. And, you see these little ones and you can just see them, and these are little tiny things, and they look up at you, and you can hear them talking to you. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this baby's talking to me, Lord. And then I talk back and then it answers, and I'm thinking, goodness me, that's a first, to see these little wee ones that are being able to have a conversation before they start transitioning through and start, living their lives at this time. Obviously their inner dragon is still getting ready and coming in, because it takes until they're about probably about 2 or 3, and then the inner dragon goes within. But up until then, the dragon is still with them, which is lovely. And you can see it in the little ones. They're so different. The new little babies that are coming, and they're just awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's a whole different. I mean, it started with the Indigo kids, I think.
Yes.
90s. Was it the 90s? We started hearing about the Indigo kids coming in, with all these things. Wow. So, I mean, and truly, I think kids are in so many ways our teachers. In fact, because, kids are our future. So we really need to learn from them.
We
But
do.
it's such a fine line between being the parent that guides them with enough will, because they do need guidance. Every child needs guidance. Some of them can be quite
Difficult.
wild. Yeah,
Difficult.
So they do, and not taking away from them these gifts, and still enabling them to use it and develop it, but at the same time being, because they're not going to be able to use or develop it in a constructive way if we the parents are shut down.
Of course.
So we, the parents, have to be open to receiving. But then you also get these other crazy parents that go, oh, well, my child is born a dog, or my child is born gay, or my child is born whatever. So, that to me is like, no, you've got to find a line, but you don't know that. That's your projection. There's a fine line between understanding what your child is and what your child chooses to be. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
that for me right now with kids, and especially these bright kids coming in, they're so
Mm.
bendable, because they're so um, high frequency, they're more easily bendable. And that's why even the cabal knows that, which is a bit scary.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, it's very interesting. Anyway, that is a whole topic we can be having on
It
10
is.
different
Yeah,
shows, I'm
it's a
sure.
big one. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, for sure. But anyway, I wanted to ask you sort of more on what's happening currently in the world.
Okay.
I mean, in the last few days, a week or so, with the assassination of CK, let's just call him CK. I think
Okay.
all of
Yes,
us know
better.
who we are speaking about.
Yeah.
And then as well as round about the same time,
Mm.
the Ukrainian girl on the train. And now I have seen, if you follow my Aquarius Rising Facebook page, I posted a video. Like obviously there was videos in the train, footage of what happened. I mean, it is such a fake farce, you know. I mean that for sure, in my opinion. I'm sorry. But I would just love to know your take on those two specific events. And I don't know, maybe then we can weave it into other things that are happening currently, because I mean there's so much, man. It's wild. Remember we
It
always
is very, it's crazy. It is crazy. The
it's
CK thing was quite interesting for me because it's the first time ever that I've been actually um, in America when something major like this has happened. And we were just sitting chatting with the rest of the community because I'm sharing some very special time with the Muskogee Creek Indian. I don't think I'm allowed to say Indian. Native people, uh, native peoples of Florida, so Muskogee of Florida, and we were having some tea and things like that, and just chatting about general things. And this came up. We had the TV sound off in the background, and then breaking news came up, and there it was. And I said to them, I said, "Who's this CK person in Utah? Has something's happened?" And it was like breaking news. And then we all looked and said, "No, that can't be. There must be wrong." And we carried on chatting. And then, of course, there was updates and more updates and more updates. And I looked at this, and you know me, I'm always interested in the energy, what's happening with the energy. And then they went to the scene, and there was a reporter on the scene and looking at what happened, where the people were, and people were scattering. And I just thought, no, this is very strange. And then they went to the top of the building where they said the person was, that was some sort of a sniper or something. And I looked at this, I thought, the whole energy was completely off. And I thought, I know this from old. I remember this from SA days, from South Africa days, when Chris Hani and all the others, everything. And I thought, what does this sound like? This sounds like a Chris Hani repeat. So my view of the situation that happened in America was the person was taken out by a professional. There is no way that you can have a single instant, a single trajectory to the place that it needs to be, with someone that is just a mere hunter that just occasionally goes and hunts whatever. No, that is not. And having worked with the army and military and other individuals, SONOP, etc., these people are highly trained to be able to do just a single incident to wherever. There is no way that that was a run-of-the-mill person that does a little bit of hunting here and there, occasionally goes
I
into the
agree.
woods. There is no way. You're smoking your socks, mate. If you think that you can, just try it. You will see. It has to be. And I've known a lot of individuals that work in that environment, and they go and they train every day. They train with all their different weapons every day. That is somebody. That is somebody that gets it in first time, every time. That's it. No way is that somebody that is some youngster that's from the same university campus. He's obviously agreed to be the fall person. There is no way that it's him. If that person was taken out because of who he is, who he knows, and he was meant to be the next in line here in America, and that was didn't fit the narrative of specific individuals. So he was taken out. That's my view.
Wow. Wow. Very interesting because I'm not sure if you saw any of the footage as well, but I saw something on YouTube where they were showing two guys next to him before it happened, and they were giving signals that were confirmed to be sniper signals.
Oh, wow. No, I
Uh,
didn't see that. How amazing. Wow.
yeah, no, I did see that. Yeah, and it showed the one guy doing something with the ear to a cap or something, and then the other one did this and this and this or something. I don't know, something like that. And it was confirmed that that signals they would say, right, do it.
That's a yes, go ahead. Wow.
Mm.
That's amazing. I didn't see that. I'm going to have to go back and have a watch. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I suppose it's for, if the inner circle of individuals, they've got their own, I don't know, that they must have their own little signals and things that they use. But yeah, it's just that whole energy was like, when you look at something and you just know, no, something's off. And that's exactly what
but
it
the,
was.
but then we also seen pictures of him, the his hand. Suddenly, first his rings on the ring finger, then it's on the pinky finger.
Oh,
So yes, so we're seeing, and then you see on quite a bit of the footage, there's like a black dot on his shirt,
how weird.
and then it moves in slow motion, moves, end up on his throat. And then the F, because he had a white t-shirt with written in black freedom. And then the
Mm-hmm.
F on the t-shirt is just not there, you know, which is typical of CGI stuff as well.
Mm.
So there's a lot of, information being put out there. Obviously, the world is grieving, you know,
Of course,
um,
yes.
and there's a lot of talk around why that is. And at the same time, this Ukrainian girl on the train. What's your take on that?
I think some of it, when I was looking at the footage, it was, I couldn't see. Normally, if someone is going to transition, I mean, and you know this, you've dealt with people that are going to go across to the other side, and their energy changes completely. Even if it is opportunistic, or if it is something where they're cut down on the day, during a day that they didn't, even then, their energy values, they lessen, and you can see that transition has started. There wasn't an energy of transitioning. All of her energy, the toroidal field, that big round one that's around you, all of the aura energy was still there, and then the
Yeah,
toroidal field was still there. So I don't
yes,
understand how someone who's getting ready to go across and transition over into spirit, how is it possible that that person then hasn't got a transition energy? I don't get that. That doesn't make sense to me. So I would question a lot around, you know, what were the intentions for all of that? Was it something that was staged? Was it something that came about literally within seconds? But then if she was meant to transition and go into spirit, then that should have lessened, because somebody from spirit would have come to fetch her loved ones, or a granny, or somebody that was in spirit would have come to pull her out of her body and take her to spirit. But none of that was there. So
No,
I'll question that.
well, again, I saw a video clip, which I actually posted on Aquarius Rising's Facebook page. And it was obviously taken from cameras in the train.
Okay.
Okay. It was taken at a height, so there must have been. But you see her sitting there on her phone, and the guy in the back doing a whatever it is, a nail file or a clip knife or whatever, pulling her back and doing whatever, and she sits. But anyone, first knows that the minute the jugular, because that's what is severed or anything close to it, I mean, there is just blood, right?
Yeah.
There's absolutely no blood. She sits like this, looking around, confused for a minute, falls over like that, off her chair, not a stitch of blood on the back of her chair, on her clothes, on her cap, nothing, just blood on the seat. So the guy says, the guy who's actually critting this, he says, well, why is there no blood there? Why is there only blood on the seat? And then she falls off and on the floor, but her hand is still holding on to the seat. So she still had enough power to hold on, and she's clearly doing something with her hand. Now there's no blood on the floor, right? And the next minute, dish, you see the squirt of blood shooting out from the side of the wherever, there's a screen thing that she's obviously fallen behind, and it just stays there. Any idiot could see that was a blood bag.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah.
it's like, come on, people. Hey, I'm all for, if that was real, but it did not evoke that emotion in me at all. It was too fake from the beginning. It's what you're saying. And that's exactly what I saw. I thought, but her
That's a bit strange.
soul is still intact. And this is why these creatures don't want us actually using our spiritual gifts, by the way, is because when you have your spiritual gifts intact, sorry, that's when you have your spiritual gifts intact, you are going to see these things. You can't fool people anymore. You see auras, you see these demonic creatures.
Exactly.
You can see it. It's part of what it is to be human. So this is why they're relying on our emotions to absolutely shoot sky high. And I also question the timing again of the Epstein tapes, that are not being released. I don't really give a damn who's going to say what about this. But for me, the Epstein tapes, it's not just about whether the president or his aide or his best friend or whatever was involved. That releasing the Epstein tapes, whatever they are, is going to expose everybody, everyone. It exposes the entire cabal. And that, of course, is what they can't have right now. So they're creating one diversion after the other. For whatever reason. Is it because they think humanity can't deal with these monsters and the way we've been lied to? But I'm so sick and tired of hearing this, because for the past 5 years, oh, humanity can't deal with the truth. Bull crap, man. Bull crap. Those that can't deal with the truth, let them go to a healer who can help them. Not a shrink or not a psych. A healer. Okay, a good one. That's my point. People need to wake up. And I'm hearing all the time about, oh, this is happening and that's happening and that's one being arrested and that one's. The evil is worse than ever. If all these creatures are being arrested, why is the evil worse than ever?
Yeah.
Man, let's not listen to this nonsense anymore. We have to create the change in the world that we want to see. If we are going to listen to, it's the most frustrating thing for me, Beverly, listening to these people blow smoke up our asses day in and day out, and I cannot believe how many people still believe it. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, I agree with, but I think that those that believe it, the sheeple, they do believe it to a point, but eventually, the amount of light that's being beamed down onto our beautiful planet, that light is like the water of the universe. Whereas water will get into every little nook and cranny and it'll find a way. Light will find a way and people will wake up, and people are waking up in their droves, but as a cycle, there's like this wave. You'll get so many and then it'll flatten a bit and then it'll start again. And you can see this is where people in droves start waking up and they start asking the questions. And that's the start of it, is just ask the questions. What looks logical? What makes sense? And what is the situation? Create the problem, provide the solution, offer the solution. This is what has been happening for centuries. And we've allowed this. But now if we start asking, well, actually, what do we want the solution to be? Well, we want the new earth. We want a new way of living. We want these sort of things. And if you just look at, what's happening in the UK at the moment, and all of the marches and people in London particularly, they've taken to the streets to say, no, I don't want this way the current issues are. The UK has got a major problem. And I was speaking to somebody on the weekend, and they'd explained to me what was happening in town in London. And I was surprised that people are doing as much as they are. It's unusual because English, Scottish, Welsh, Irish, everyone is normally quite quiet. Everyone just doesn't really say very much, and we sit back and we evaluate and we're very careful. We don't allow the emotions, but suddenly the emotions are saying, no, I'm not on my watch. I'm not prepared to do this. I don't want this type of world for my children. And they're taking to the streets and having their say. So it's going to be very interesting when I go back to see what's happening, because I believe there's a lot of stuff happening where people are saying, no, no more. Good. You're on mute.
I definitely feel that time is coming, and it's interesting you're saying. And I've had some of my family members. I mean, they've been knowing for 5 years what I do, and they kind of like give me the side eye and don't really. She's the one you don't really talk to at a dinner party. Just like she's a bit weird, like, but don't get on a topic. You know what I'm saying? But I've had them. This Charlie Kirk thing has had my family start asking me questions.
Wow.
Absolutely. Like, but why? I mean, don't worry about that. I've been sending this particular sibling information every now and again. Like
They
grumble,
don't
grumble.
they don't even open it when you send it. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, I can't be bothered. Yeah,
exactly.
I know the feeling very well. Yeah, you send it and you hope maybe one day.
They tolerate me. They tolerate me to a point, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and then it's like, and then he was like asking me, but why? Why are they doing that? And I said to him, well, look at the time that was happening, and look at the same time that happened with the. He says, but why would they do that? And then I explain.
Diversion.
I just explain a little bit. I'll just explain a little bit. I'm just giving like bite-sized chunks right now. I was like, okay, let me not choke the guy on too much.
Yeah, you just got to. You
Anyway,
just got to. That's the main thing is start asking questions. Look
yeah,
around you,
absolutely,
see what's happening.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
understand because it's yes, and we've had all those eclipses. We've had all sorts of unusual happenings, and also what is so great is while I'm here still, we're going to be doing some more reviewing of cryptids, and we're going to have a look at the Alawan, which is the it's based in Florida over here, and it's quite an amazing being because she ran across the road when we were in the woods in the forest, and we saw them and we were all like, oh my god, what was that? And that was just so exciting. So we keep going back to see whether we can see more, and I just know that at some point there will be something that we see because they are these interdimensional, multidimensional creatures or beings. They were here long before we were, long before the planet
Totally,
was
yeah,
colonized. And they come and they
totally.
go. So very excited. I think the other word they call it is the Florida skunk ape, which is not the greatest name for them, but that they're actually called the Alawan. And that's what we'll be doing is going and taking one of these what do they call them? It's a boat with a big fan on the back. I don't know what they're called. It's got a big fan on the back and you go through it's very exciting. So that's happening. So I'm hoping to get some footage. If I don't, even if I can just either hear her or see them, because I know there's at least 3, and then have a look and just sit very quietly out of sight where there's this. It's huge. It's like this big oak. It was an oak tree that fell over during one of the. I don't know whether it was a hurricane or something. So they cut it, and then they used it as an offering table, but it's ginormous. I mean, it must have been about 400 years old, this oak tree. So what was interesting is when the native Muskogee tribe cut it, as the rest of the tree fell over, there was this picture of the Alawan inside the tree, and I'm like, oh my god, look at that! There's this image. So they put the food and the flowers, fruit. What else was there? Food, flower, fruits, and then I think there was this piece of material. And then I said, here's some toffees from the UK. Put some toffees down. Toffees, very interesting. Toffees were taken, but very weird. The 3 little wrappers were left with no toffee inside them. Just the 3 wrappers were left on the offering table with some flowers and a little not a statue, it's like a carving or something, and that was it. I was gobsmacked. I was amazed. I thought, oh my goodness, this being knew to eat what was inside and not eat the paper. How is that possible? I mean, if it had been a wild animal, they would have scoffed
Yeah,
it a lot. They would have scoffed a lot. They would have scoffed the paper, alles. It would have been gone. But this being
I love that it likes sweets. I can so identify.
sweets. Yeah.
I would definitely figure out how to get that thing out the paper. That's for sure, very
Of course,
quickly.
it's toffee. And it was a very lovely toffee too. And I thought, well, this has traveled all the way from England. Give it 3 toffees and see what it does. So I absolutely loved it. So it's worth going and getting bitten by mosquitoes and other bugs over here.
Oh no, please don't even talk about the bite story again. I'm just getting over my PTSD for you.
Oh Lord. No, I won't tell you
about think about it for 3 hours today. Now you reminded me again.
Shame.
For those of you that Beverli was munched on by a vampire when she was a child. I just can't. I can't.
I know. Don't think about it. Put it out of your head. Put it out of your head.
Yeah, go. It's like too much for me. Wild, man.
It is very wild.
I don't know. Anyway, but listen, while we're on the topic, I want to reverse a little bit. We mentioned Chris Hani earlier on as well.
Yes.
And I know last week we spoke about him as well. And I know I got my knickers in a knot there for a New York minute, because, it's more just about the abuse of this continent. For
Yeah.
me, that's what it is. It's the
Mm.
the the way that these supposed superpowers have used Africa as their playground, have had absolutely no remorse and no
Yeah.
regret about corrupting the leaders. And are the leaders innocent? No. But when you're dealing with a different culture of people,
Yeah.
and you taunting this carrot in front of their nose all the time about glitz and gold and glamour, and you can have this
Yeah.
and you can have that and you can have that, it becomes extremely difficult to resist that temptation.
It
And
does. Yes.
so because of that, these guys have sold out our resources at the rate of knots, that we pretty much have nothing. You know, if you look at, well, we do have a lot still, but compared to what Africa
We
had.
used to have, yes.
Exactly. So for me, that's the frustration. It's not aimed at anyone in particular. I get that it's a disgusting system that's at play. And I mean, I interviewed John Perkins maybe just over a year ago as well, who was the author of Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And he
Oh, wow.
speaks about how he worked for these companies who were all, he wasn't CIA, but the companies were. And they literally get sent to third world countries to take out the governments if they
That's
aren't
right.
able to be corrupted,
Yeah.
you know? And that for me is really what it's about. But anyway, I just wanted to just clear that as well, because I know sometimes when I speak about these things, I do get a bit emotionally charged. And there's lots of things that pee me off. There's nothing I can do about it single handedly. But, I think it's so important to remember that it's not about whether I'm a South African and you're an American and someone else is Chinese or Japanese or Malaysian, or we are all humans, and they've learned successfully how to divide us through nations.
Yes, they
You
have.
know, it's not the American people, for example. It's that disgusting shadow government that has been lying to the world. How did America become the superpower? Because if I'm looking at a lot of things here now, hey, that government stole a lot of shit from this continent. For starters, they own this kind. That's why when we talk about that the republic no longer being a republic, they own this. It's a close corporation. And do you know how much South Africa owes the NWO or whoever? It's billions that have to be paid back by 2030,
Oh, Lord.
and which they can never pay back. And
No.
then the next amount's got to be paid back by 2035 or something, which can never be paid back. Which means if this country cannot pay back our loans, we own by the New World Order. Boom. There we go. Gone.
Yeah.
We've been signed over as surety. We are no longer the Republic of South Africa. And what annoys me is that you'll go to courts and stuff, and you hear these people talking about to each other in the courts and the politicians, and they'll say, the Republic of South Africa. I'm going, there is no Republic of South Africa. That statement there makes your whole conversation null and void.
Mm.
Absolutely, because there is no Republic of South Africa. That's
Yeah,
the
and
thing.
that tracks back to when you start looking at the past and you look at some of the areas across Africa. And I did a lot of research when I used to live there. I went out into some of the areas where you find these ancient stone circles. I went to Adam's Calendar. I went to the area in Brits and had a look at those. And I must have gone to over time and just going out into the field and having a look at items. And people would get hold of me when I lived in Kew. They would send me these little messages and say, come and have a look at this. This is on my farm. I don't know what it is, but come and have a look at it and see what energies you pick up. And I realized that when I started having a look at them, they were all the same. They said, well, there's no entrance into them. It's a circle. of stones
Mm.
that were clearly built in a certain way, but there was no entrance, because the guys were saying, well, maybe I can use it because I'm running my sheep, or I've got my cattle or whatever. I can maybe find, but there's no entrance for me to put my cattle in to be able to close it off. And that's when they'd get hold of me and say, come and have a look at this. This is like really weird. What is this? What was it used for? Who goes and builds a completely round circle of stones with no entrance? What's that about? And then had these like little offshoots on either side, and every single one of them that I went to had the same thing. And then I realized that close to these particular circles of stone, there were these disused mines, and like they would find them because an animal, one of the cows, would fall down a shaft or fall down in the hole, which they never knew was there before. So when you start plotting all of that, then you realize there's something very unusual. Then the energy is energy of a very, very large being. And we found some of these like circular, strange stones. They're very weird. And then they've got, some of them have got a hole in them, and some of them don't, and they're round. And when you tap on them with a spade or something, they make this boing sound, which a stone generally doesn't do. So they're like ring. And all of this around South Africa, this is there. And I think part of that, when you start counting how many there are, how many of these structures there are, then you look at Adam's calendar and how that relates to the rest of South Africa. My view is that South Africa particularly, and other places in Africa, has been always known, not just internationally from continent to continent, but also beyond, so including into the stars. It's always been known as the area to mine the resources in order to power things. So either the plutonium, palladium, copper, gold, those main metals, they're always extracted out of the tip of Africa. And when you start looking at what is the golden thread that attaches to all of these funny places that I'd been to, over 100, then you start realizing, well, then the people that came before, they must have been mining it as well. So in a way, the energies of the land, of the earth, of Southern Africa is the one where the leaders of the country have always allowed opportunistic mining, and an opportunity for both off-worlders and those that are on the land to take the minerals out of the land. Because that's what
Right.
these funny structures are showing, that maybe
Wow.
that is what they were doing. So they're following in the footsteps of what they'd agreed centuries ago, centuries and centuries, long before, the VOC landed in South Africa,
Yeah.
the Dutch East India Company, and
Yeah.
long before the British landed there. We're going back centuries before that.
Yes. Well, Credo Mutwe spoke about the Shatari, right?
Yeah.
That's that lizard, the
The
lizard
Mandingani.
being,
Yeah.
yes, that pretty much resides in Africa. So I guess he would look a bit like I don't know, but the lizard, okay? And he also spoke about that's why, and this is not coming from me, guys, I'm quoting Credo Mutwe. He said that's why a lot of the African women have such big buttocks, is because it's like energetically, it's their lizard tails. So a lot of the African beings are actually, or African people are actually Shatari from the lizard species, which actually, hey, I'm not saying it, but if I think about it and we think about this crazy stuff, it makes sense because there's a level of cruelty as well that certain African people have that they display against each other. I have never seen so much violence against people of their own kind. And especially when you look at South Africa's history, when the rest of the xenophobia that happens here every so often, that flares up. and you see the brutal ways in which African people are unaliving and other African people, necklacing. I mean, that's a
This is
famous one.
terrible.
I mean, when that stuff was all there, with that xenophobia thing was all happening, I know personally that Zulu men who were married to Zimbabwean women had no problem unaliving their wives
Good Lord.
at that time. So it's like that's what I'm saying. There's a level of violence that an African person can display against another African person. And there's a level of lack of empathy that can be displayed against other species, like the gorilla, the poaching. I mean, the way these guys poach animals is absolutely horrific. It's no problem. I was having a full on argument with a guy somewhere in Africa because he hunts with a pack of dogs. I'm going, are you crazy? How do
Wow.
you think that's okay? He says, well, it's going to die anyway. Hunting is hunting. I'm
Oh,
going,
well.
dude, how there's 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 a sensitivity chip missing. Now, I'm not, please, I know I can get myself into trouble with these conversations, and I don't mean anything racist about this at all. But if we're looking at what you're saying, and if we're listening to what Krida Mutwa is saying, and I'm observing some behaviors that we've seen in Africa, it makes a lot of freaking sense that is. I mean, the other day, for example, I can't get this out of my head. I saw a African woman tied down, laying
Oh,
face down.
oh,
Um, each arms and legs splayed out, tied with ropes,
oh,
tied to something, and a guy was whipping her.
oh my goodness, how
He was
awful.
whipping her because she had cheated, apparently.
Oh dear.
I'm going, well, hey, where's the guy she cheated with, and who's the guy whipping her? Is that not her husband or brother or something? And he's probably got 6 chicks on the side. It's no issue for a lot of African men to have 20 women and they have babies like all over. They'll say they're going to the spa to buy milk and they never ever come home.
Lord.
That's a joke amongst African people, actually. You'll hear them joke about that.
Oh,
Did your father also go to ShopRite and never came home? Sad. But that's what I'm saying. So, most definitely, it makes a lot of sense that this place has been, call it a portal, right, for that
mm,
type of energy to take place. And that they are, and when you look at the Anunnaki, right, when you're
yes.
reading Zacharias
Sitchin.
Sitchin's books, right, he speaks about the Anunnaki that created a slave race so that they could mine their resources. So, when we look at the slave people in Africa, who is the slaves of this continent being? Their very own people, the African people, right? Doctor, thank you. So appreciate you. Yay. Appreciate that.
That's lovely, Magda.
Yeah,
Well done.
thank you. What do you say to that? I mean, the fact that if the Anunnaki did create a slave race to mine the gold, because that's what it says, that's what he's writing about, right?
It's true.
What do you say?
Yeah. Well, when I spent time with Baba Mutwa, I spent quite a long time at Latlamoring, and we had gone into the bush quite a bit, and there was a cave that he was using at the time in Latlamoring, and we went to the cave, and we were talking about this particularly, and I said to him, you've had direct experience with Mandindani, with those that you've seen, and he had a very difficult time with them because when they appeared, he was a younger man, but when Baba Mutwa was talking about what had happened to him, he became very teary-eyed, And you see, these people that are coming from the stars that did and were easily infiltrated into the African peoples, some of them are very dangerous creatures because they have that ability to understand what is the value of the earth and what do they want. And he said there are thousands of sites across Africa. And because he
Yes.
was voted as the Zulu leader, spiritual Zulu leader of the nation, um, he had said there's in time, in centuries to come, they will understand, individuals will do that research that will prove that some of the mining techniques that were used centuries ago in the beginning, that was all off-world technology. So I agree with you that there is a strange energy, and there is a way in which sometimes that reptilian brain has not been switched off, which causes an issue for individuals. But I think because the Mandindani and the other, there's been a lot of different type of creatures, if you like, that have been seen, particularly those that have landed in ponds and rivers, and then they come out of their craft and walk on the water. There's been a lot of those particular types of sightings. So there's a lot of interest around what remains in the earth still that they're after. So I would imagine that at some point, with all of the sites that are there, I'm pretty sure that maybe not in our lifetime, but in the lifetime of others, you will see some of them will return in order to pillage the rest of whatever is in the land, whatever is in the earth. Because I think that they didn't get all of it when they were here the last time. And because their planets and the way that they are within their planets are so far away, they will have to return and come to get with the rest of whatever it is they left in the earth. And I think we will see that happening. But the good thing will be that the humans that are here in our next few centuries, they would have worked out who is that's coming and who it is that's going to try and take resources from Gaia, from the earth. And I think those that are assisting the planet in years to come, they will assist and stand in their way and say, no, you're not coming back. These humans are a growing spiritually set of beings. Do not take from their planet and see them
But
off.
listen,
I think that'll happen.
when we hear as well about the guys involved in the secret space programs, the
Yes,
human beings are actually quite atrocious. It's the human beings that are actually inviting these ETs in so that they can actually colonize outside of Earth. We humans are giving them access to this planet so that we can become more powerful before our time. You know, the thing with the human consciousness is it's a step by step evolution,
it is.
right?
Yes,
You know,
yes,
so we as we grow and expand, it's like our chakras unlock and we learn more, we
yeah,
see more, we get more. It's a beautiful journey, or the way it's supposed to be. But there's that element of humans that is because remember as well we're here via free will and choice,
yes,
okay,
yes,
and we have an infinite soul, infinite awareness, infinite consciousness. Although in 3D we really are governed by certain LOREs, laws, which we
yes.
should abide by. But
Mm.
of course, these guys know no rules, so they break them and abuse, and therefore bring in technologies, creatures, etc. That, and I'm sure the outer worldly entities have definitely tempted the human beings
Oh,
so
I'm
that
sure
they
they have.
can. And
Yeah,
you know, it's like America tempting our leaders, and Russia tempting our leaders, and China tempting our leaders. You know, oh, we'll give you this. You know, your people will flourish. And please, none of these guys do it for the people. Please, why do you think there's so much poverty in Africa? Because they're all for themselves. They don't give a rat's backside about the starving millions here. They don't. There's a few fat cats that sit at the top and that are greedy, like, oh, if I have to ever meet Cyril, I think I really hope that I don't, because I cannot He's so slimy. He's so greedy. He's such a disgusting specimen of energy that would rather vomit before I touched him. Seriously. Because he to me epitomizes that being that is so fat and just eating and more and more and more and more and more. And he, energetically, he just can't get enough of whatever it is that he's wanting. And unfortunately, that makes him a very pliable puppet
It does.
for these puppet masters. So he's done a lot of evil things, that guy, long before he even became president. Long before he even became president. But anyway, I want to just talk about Chris Hani.
Yes.
I know we touched on that and asked Lad a few questions. Um, we know that he was not taken out by the guy that spent 30 years in jail, neither
No.
Clive Darby Lewis, right? We know that. What do
Yeah.
you know about that? Because you mentioned last week that you'd also, the powers that be were checking. What were they checking? And what was the real reason, according to what you know, about his assassination?
Yeah, I think, there was because he was the leader of the ANC, and he was part of this
The
change
Communist
that
Party.
he
He was the
yeah that,
Communist Party.
yeah, he was the Communist Party in SA, but he also played a part of the armed wing. He had a lot to do with leading specific areas. But what I understood at that time is, when he was talking to his chief of staff, and he was talking to those individuals that were trying to make change, he was trying to make that change to the government at that time. And this is why this Polish immigrant that I'd said that was sort of tipped to be the person, which wasn't the person that actually took him out. And this is, they seem to all, when you look at them, they all follow the same trajectory. They choose somebody, they do the work on them, they use the same techniques as they would do, so like with the Montauk project. They would use exactly the same techniques on those individuals. So they would accept the fact that, the Polish chap, Janus, he would have said, yes, this is what I did, this is how I did it. But it's unlikely that he was the one that actually did the doings. It would have been a professional that did that for him. He definitely,
Mm.
all of those aspects. And if you have a look at where he was, it was Boksburg, for goodness sakes, Boksburg. And if anybody knows South Africa, Boksburg is like, it's the honestly, it's the back of beyond. It's as bad as, like, Springs or Brakpan or Brits or one of those small areas. It
There's
was
lots of dodgy stuff that goes on the East Rand, that's for sure, when
Yeah,
it
East
comes to
Rand has a
Chinese
lot of
stuff.
things that were going on, and and it was Boksburg, so it's a quiet little place. Nothing much happens in Boksburg, so to be able to make it would have been noticed that a professional individual would have come in, done the job, exited out, and nobody would have been any the wiser, because Boksburg is just this tiny little sleepy place. Nothing much happens there. And if you look at even Boksburg on the map, it's a tiny little place on the East Rand, and it's connected to all sorts of other places. But I think from that point of view, I think that the individuals that I was assisting at the time, they knew that they would be able to get away with it, because the energies were such that they could waltz in, get someone to do the deed, and waltz out, which is exactly what they did. And not just with Chris Hani, they did it with loads and loads of other
Yeah, but
people.
I don't believe that that call came from the locals. That's what I'm saying. They might have been the middlemen, the locals would have agreed, right?
Mm. Mm,
But
yeah.
that would have been that was definitely, in my opinion, not a local call. It would have been a dual call, yes, but not one where it was taken locally. That was done through the because America and Russia and as you said, China at the time
Yeah.
were, I mean, South Africa was there turf war ground, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're looking at mining and resources and stuff, right?
Yeah. And there was, when I was busy with it, because obviously Chris Hani was the SACP, he was the leader anyway. But at the time, I'll tell you what confused me was I was given a target at the time called Martin Tembisile. And I didn't think anything of it. Name meant nothing to me. Wasn't anything that I was particularly worried about. And, he was also attached to Chris Hani as well. And I was thinking, well, why am I getting given the Chris Hani piece and I'm getting given Martin Tembisile? And I thought, very rarely did I bother to ask any questions about, what was this for? Why did I have to do this? Why was it necessary for me to sort of look at these major figures? For what reason? Because none of them for me, actually, I didn't know any of them and I'd never met any of them. So for me, it was literally just a target. When you're remote viewing something and looking at the energy and looking at timelines, basically you're just looking at an energy, and the name that you get given as the target is just a name, because I didn't know them. But then when I saw that, on the one line, this is where this person would be and this is what would happen, and then on the other line, this is what this person would be and this is what would happen. And when I had to give like those essential facts back to whoever had given me the targets, I never knew always what had happened, because I had to look at, what would happen politically, what would happen with the health, what would happen religiously within within that particular religious calling that individuals have. And that was key as well, because a lot of people don't realize that the Chris Hani person, although he was a politician and he was in the military and he was doing all those hutas and hutas, he was also had within himself, he had that energy where he wanted to become a significant religious leader. And this is something I think that, I don't know whether it's out there, might not be. But when I was doing the viewing on him, it was the whole Martin Tembisile and the Chris Hani in that energy ended up being together as one. And then there was a huge energy of religion and spirituality and taking in how he wanted to move that the big stream of South Africa, how he wanted to move it and change it. And so when I put all of my information down about the target, which was this Martin Tembisile and Chris Hani, the whole energy, is the religion and the spiritual leader, actually, with that whole mix and that rising up, that was actually going to be far more of an issue for the people that were commissioning the questions than the political side. And that's
Right.
another reason why there was the decision to take him out.
So again, it's not just done on a fear. It's actually done through remote viewing, timeline viewing, so they would be able to view the future timelines to get an idea of what the future held. And so it wasn't about what he could be, just the fact that he was coming up against Mandela in the elections, but also the fact that he actually was going to be a very powerful person in the future and take the country into a religious sort of tide, right?
Yes,
So that's what you're saying,
exactly.
and that's what they didn't want. But who's Martin Tembisile? Was he the one? I mean, was he who? How? I'm not understanding. I mean, I understand you'd be viewing their timelines running concurrently, right? And to see if they met. But who was he?
Tembisili was Chris Hani.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. I see what you're saying. That's why I was confused.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why, because I also, you see, I didn't know. I was given like all the names.
Right. Okay.
And
Yeah.
that's why I didn't know who it was. Martin, I didn't know Miss Martin. Everybody, when Martin Tembisili decided to adopt the Chris name, and because the Hani surname was their surname anyway. But
Right. Right.
the name Chris was adopted by him as his name going forward. But that was actually that's why I got a bit confused when I was given the target, because I thought, hang on a minute, wait a drop. I'm getting Martin, but then I'm getting two Chris's.
Huh?
And I went back to those that had asked, and I said, I'm getting two Chris's. What's that about? And they said, because Chris adopted the name Chris because that was the name of his brother. His brother was called Chris. So,
Right.
so that was where it came from. Because remember, the so-called Chris Martin was number 5 of 6 kiddies. And there was that other Chris was the real name of his brother. And then Chris decided, when they were talking to him, to Beverli, and saying, what Western name, for a better way of saying it, what Western name could you adopt if you're going to go into politics and you're going to become a religious leader? What name do you want to adopt? And he said, I want to adopt the name Chris. So that's why I was confused, because for me, the energies had flattened and they'd gone together. And I thought, hang on, why is it that this is same? Why I don't get it. The target is coming, and I went out, I went back in again, and it went back to the same person. And I thought, no, this doesn't make sense to me. Why is it that this person and this person seems to be the same person? How is this possible? And then I had to go back and I said, look, I've started working on this. I've got so far, but then they keep merging. It keeps going in. It keeps showing me the same thing. I don't understand. There's 2 Chris's. Anyway, that's when they came back to me and they said, no, let's be clear. Chris there's 2 Chris's. The Chris Hani, which is an adopted name, and then the real Chris, which was the Chris that was born out of 6 children. That's it. So I said, well, then why didn't you tell me that in the first place? Don't you think I should have known that, rather than spending hours going in and coming out and going? Anyway, so I did. And then I realized that, he was also, the Chris person had done a lot of work in Zims. So he was there during the time that it was Rhodesia, because it was like the 40s and 50s. And he had seen what was happening and what the changes were in Rhodesia, and he did a lot of fighting on different sides, and he realized that the way in which he could make this tide change in South Africa was not just to look at it from a political point of view, but he was a very spiritual man, and religion played a very strong role in his life. And within himself, he was going to use the religion and the spirituality and use that as the way. So move away from politics and move into religion, because he felt that was the only way that he could make that step change and get that wave of change, because he felt that he couldn't use politics to pull everybody along with him. But the single area that could potentially make a change in the country was utilizing religion. And that is the single-handed part of it that they said, we can't allow this to happen, because the one thing that we can do is stop him in his tracks, which is why they did what they did.
So, who are these people that you were reading for? Are they still alive? Can you tell us?
They're not alive. They were already utopis. They were really, they were getting on quite a bit. I mean, I think some of them were late 60s, 70s, and one of them that had come was in his 80s. They were behind the scenes, if you can imagine, up in
That's
Pretoria.
why I'm asking.
They're behind the scenes getting that information to those that were making the decisions.
Okay, so that's why I'm asking. Because for me, these are the real decision makers. So who were they?
I think, in all fairness, the names that they gave me when they booked to come and give me the RV target and things, I don't think that they were the real names, because every time they would book under a different name, but then the same person would arrive at the door and think, it was, weren't you called so and so before? And they would just smile at me and say, no, we just want you to look at this little thing. Just look at this little thing for me. And there'd always be the car waiting outside. So they would have this black vehicle. And I would think, this is the same person that asked me something else last time. So why are you asking me something different now? And you could see that they were trying to piece things together.
So what was your suspicion?
I wasn't
Where
sure
was
what
it coming from?
they were gonna do with it. I was like, who is this guy?
No, but who did you think the information was for? You would have had to have known it was coming from like someone high level, right? So
I think it was individuals that, when I was asking them about it, they said they were political analysts. That was the official sort of, are we political analysts, and we're using a different train of thought to try to understand what specific individuals could do on the different timelines. So there was, the Chris Hani person. They wanted to see whether he was a threat or what he would do. And he was intending to use the religious aspect. That was the route he was going to go down. He was not necessarily going to push all of the political side. He had a totally different side to him, which was the religious aspect. And they were worried that he would do more damage in the religious field than in the political field, even though I think most students think that he was removed because of his political aspect.
Yeah.
I don't believe that was the case. I think he was removed because of what his timeline was, that he was going to do on the religious aspect, because he could have potentially taken half the country with him if he had used, because he had a way about him that he just had a way about him.
He was gaining a lot of power.
Oh, he was, yeah. He was, yeah.
He was serious competition for Mandela.
He was.
And that was kind of like my first thought as to why. But it makes sense what you're saying, if he was going to take the people on a more spiritual path. But again, I would question who he was aligned to, because again, we know that Mandela always had handlers. We know that Ramaphosa always had handlers.
Yep.
So I'd be interested to know who were Chris Hani's handlers.
I never looked that far to see who was handling him. I would imagine there would have been individuals because of where he was going. And I do think that Chris Hani had an inkling somewhere that Mandela was not the original person that had gone into Chuki. At the time, the person that came out was not the same one. I think he had an idea. I think he did. And that's why he was saying he was going to use the religious aspect, move the political side away into religion, because he felt that he could reach the people of South Africa far more with a religious message to make a better country than try to promise. Because when I looked at him, his view was, the peoples of Africa, peoples of South Africa, they don't trust politicians. I'm going to have to reach these people, my people, in a different way. And I think that when you looked at his trajectory, he would have been, if he had survived, he would have been with the religious side and appealing to people's spirituality. He would have been far more popular than the Mandela that we see of history.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But again, I'm wondering how real that was. Was that the real him in a genuine ploy from the heart, because he was the leader of the Communist Party,
Yeah.
which I mean, which means he would have been aligned with the Russians and
Yeah.
probably the Chinese as well, and that's never good. Anyway, so that would have made sense. It would have made sense then. And as
Mm,
you say, these people you were giving that information to were giving that information to other people.
they
And
were.
that's what I'm saying. So these other people that they were giving the information to were not necessarily the South African leaders, because I don't think I think that few of these high level assassinations have come from South Africa, the leaders in South Africa. Definitely, it's whoever they were in working in cahoots with. And
Mm.
I know that Chris Hani was taken out by the American government. That
Yeah,
is,
I have no idea who they sent them to. The other thing that worried me, and this was like after the fact, like years later, because everything, I mean, I didn't have like lots of typewriters and machines and things like that. So everything that I gave them it was handwritten. And when you're doing an RV session, there's a way to do it, and you have your target number, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that you put at the top, and then you draw your little drawings, and you write what you see, and it's all handwritten in those days. Everything was
yeah.
handwritten. Nothing was done on a machine. There was no computers. There wasn't computers in those days. Everything was just my handwriting, my little drawings. And that's how I gave the whole lot to them and said, look, that's it. This is all I've got. These are all the pages. You've got everything. And that's why I still remember on the front page, it was like a Chris and a Chris. And it was like two balls with Chris and Chris. And that's why it confused me, because I saw two Chris's, not one. And when I gave them everything afterwards, years later, I thought, oh my goodness, what happens if they took what I'd given and then added things to it and then gave that to somebody else? And I thought, well, how am I going to protect myself from that? Because,
Mm.
you've handwritten stuff and you've given it to them, assuming they're going to take everything as it is and not change anything. So I can't even say for sure whether whoever I handed those few pages to, whether they took that as it is or they didn't add to it. They might have added to it. I don't know. They might have.
Right. Very, very interesting. And then, of course, and I know I'm not going to keep us much longer this evening, but also, which is interesting, that there was another, and I mean, when we talk about, of course, there's politicians, but there was also high level business people and stuff like that that have
Yes.
been taken out. And another one was a woman called Hazel Crane. Hazel Crane was taken out. What I find interesting number, exactly, because Chris Hani was taken out on the 10th of April, 93.
93, yeah, it
Hazel
was.
Crane was assassinated 10th of November, 2003, exactly a decade and 7 months later. And that was due to Israel, the Israeli mafia on our streets
Oh,
again. Yeah, because the day she was going to be speaking in court. That's the day, that Monday morning, I think, some lunatic literally jumps out from behind dustbins and shot her 4 times. And
oh,
again,
wow.
that was not a local hit. That was
Mm.
an international hit, and that was
I,
done by Israel.
I
So
don't know
again,
anything about her. I haven't actually
yeah.
had a look at her. Maybe I should have a look at her as well, see whether there was a connection between her and Chris Hani. Who knows?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same sniper.
Ah, okay.
That's how strongly I see the connection.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It, it could almost be the same sniper. In fact,
Well,
I'm
this is
pretty
it.
sure it probably
You
could
never
be.
know. This is
Yeah,
it. So, and it's for me, it was a very difficult time because these were all people that I had no idea who they were,
yeah.
and they just pitched up, asked the questions, came in and gave me the target number, and that was it. And it was literally a couple of times, did the work, gave them the report, said, there you go, on your bike, off you go, cheers mate, whatever you do with it. And then a bit later you hear all this
Yeah,
other nonsense going down, and I kind of thought, well, did what I
but
say
isn't
had
that,
something to do with it or not? I have no clue, but yeah.
it's so crazy to think about that though, because even if you think of someone like Hani,
Mm.
and I mean, I'd ask you, in fact, I'd be interested to know what your take on this is from that perspective. So, if you've given them the information on the remote viewing on Chris Hani, for example, and they took him out because of that, how do you feel? Is that directly related? What is your take on that? I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
just on a
don't know
personal
whether
level.
it's directly related, because he didn't. When I looked at what he was doing, and I mean, he jumped bail, and he did a whole bunch of stuff in Zimbabwe, and then he came down to South Africa, and he did a lot of things. He did Lesotho as well, and he did Zambia, and he did all sorts of things. So there was a lot of aspects, there were a lot of moving parts, shall we say.
Yeah,
And I think, I'm not sure whether that was just the one reason why it was requested for him to be removed. I think that because he had touched, when you look at the spikes around the Chris Hani energy, there's lots of spikes. There's Zimbabwe, there is also various guerrilla operations against SA and from various bases in Lesotho, in Zambia, and all of those areas. So it's not just the end bit, which is this one, which was
yeah.
him where
There's a
he
lot of
wanted to become a religious. He
yeah,
had fingers in lots of little pies
yeah,
all over the place before 1993. And I think when I first gave that, which was very early, it was way before 1993, way before 1993. When I gave all of that information, they were still checking him. So it took them a long time to make that decision in
right.
1993 to do what they did. So obviously what happened after I had given the RV session, they'd obviously traced all of this, but it was a lot to do with the bases in Lesotho and Zambia, and also what he'd set up for himself in Zimbabwe. I think there were lots of other aspects that
Yeah,
didn't become public knowledge, and I think that definitely had a lot to do with that final decision. I don't believe that my piece of information was the only piece of information.
yeah.
I
I
think
think
it
that's
was
what.
part of it, but not all of it. No.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I think there's so many different parts that make that up, and there's no doubt in my mind that those guys were already being handled, and
Oh
they
yes.
already, as you say, had fingers in every pie. There was certainly they'd certainly missed no meals. They were laughing all the way to the bank.
Mm,
There was no. They need the African people for the vote. That's what they need the African people for,
exactly.
and that's and unfortunately the rest is just one big sick game where humans become their pawns, and we get sold a lie and crap, and people just lap it up like it's chocolate, and it's not, it's poop. Mm.
Yeah,
Anyway,
not the
on
best.
that, yeah, on that note, and it's true, like I mean, and yeah, I'm also looking at why I especially mentioned Israel, and I mean, let's just be clear. When I speak about Israel, I'm not talking about the Jewish people,
Oh,
right? I'm talking about the Jesuits, right? That have kind of like really, yeah, harmed the Jewish name, in my opinion. But it's like when we're looking at Charlie Kirk as well, there's a lot of stuff about him having changed his narrative about Israel and stuff like that. But hey, I mean, it's just so weird. It's so bizarre as to what is going on. And
lots of similarities, isn't there? And
yeah,
also when you look at CK, when I was having a look at some of the bits and pieces, and I thought about it, I thought, what have we got with the Jesuits coming in? What have we got with particularly with some of the Catholic religions and things coming in there. It just seems very odd that this would happen to him at that time, because he again is one of those that had an energy that was able to speak to the youngsters. And as we all know, the youngsters are our future. And he was able to speak to the youngsters. He was able to connect with them. He was able to find a way through to say, this is what I'm planning. This is what we can do. We can make a better world and make better lives for everyone. And I think that was part of where the danger was seen. And plus, I think there was rumblings in the background that he was going to change his religion to become a Catholic, which I think nobody wanted. There's a lot of extra information that I think is going to come out over the next few months about.
Isn't that interesting that Candace Owens recently became Catholic though, and she and Charlie Kirk were really good friends. And I find it, another thing I find interesting about Charlie Kirk was that the shooter was caught 33 hours
Oh, there's the
after
threes.
shooting. You know, guys, we've been around this block long enough now to see when symbolism is at play.
And it's
And
major symbolism. Yeah.
yes. So we must just also be aware of that. I know, they create these psyops and scenarios to evoke emotion out of us so that they can slurp up our louche, because that's what's chocolate for them. So let's be discerning, We can never forget the nicest, most slick operators that get put out there and are there to lure the masses in are often sent by the dark forces. And it's a great disappointment. Look at all our celebrities.
Oh, Lord, yes. Terrible.
Look at all our celebrities and the disappointment they've been. We're gonna be seeing similar stuff here. Do I think Charlie was part of the boys' club? Probably. I'm not gonna lie. Probably. Was his assassination real or not? I don't know at this point. There's a lot pointing in either direction. But I find the whole thing super suspicious. The video footage of these guys giving assassination hand symbol literally when it happened. Was it CGI? Wasn't it? Because looking at his t-shirt, the black mark on his shirt that literally in slow motion moves across his shirt and then into his throat.
Weird.
And yeah, the rings on the different fingers. I don't know, guys. We've got to be discerning. We can't just get caught up in our emotions. I love Charlie. I really did. I listened to him a lot. At every opportunity, I listened to him. He made a lot of sense to me. He really did. He made a lot of sense to us all. And it makes a lot of sense that you saying, Beverly, he would have been the next in line to be put into a presidential position in the next 15 to 20 years.
I think so.
Because,
I think he was being groomed for that.
Exactly. Exactly. That was the grooming, right? To be able to engage the
youngsters,
the leftists, and take the abuse that you did, and yet with words and no violence, you can actually win a war, right? But the question is, was that contrived? Was he being groomed? Was that the grooming? And was this the emotion we're supposed to evoke that they're feeding off? Was this always planned? Are we being played? Was it real? I mean, it's sick. It's actually quite sick.
And the funniest thing is with the whole CK issue, there are some individuals that have had arguments in their homes, which I found out literally yesterday. I found out that there are some individuals that are just in their homes. They're arguing about what they saw, what they think, and why. And people are having these huge arguments in their homes across all of America, which is quite a sad thing that the people can't seem to agree with what they saw. which is exactly what they want. So the biggest question is to ask is, what is it that they are covering up? What is actually happening behind the scenes that is being masked by CK, by getting people to argue with each other? And end up, there's some people that I know, a couple of my clients, one of them particularly, she's actually left her fiance and said, because of what he's been saying about the CK issue, she said, no, if this is what you're like now, I'm definitely not going to be marrying you, because I can't agree with your take on politics. I don't want to be with you. Given the ring back and walked out. So what is really happening? This is the question that I have.
Exactly.
The
Divide and
energies are
conquer.
changing. Yeah, what is it? Yeah.
It's divide and conquer, because that, again, it started with COVID. Families fighting. You can't
Yeah.
hug your grandchildren now. If you're not feeling devastated by the latest CK and Miss Yugoslavia, or Ukrainian there, who's, when you're seeing other movie clips, she's a crisis actor that acted in some other drama that was supposed to happen. When you're seeing all the stuff, it's a joke, you know. And of course, CK is definitely someone who captivated the hearts of many people.
I
So he
believe.
evokes a big response,
Yeah.
and of course, in such a public way. Young man, Christian, strong family values, two young kids, beautiful young wife, politics, religion, sports. Yes. Hmm.
And we just got to
Yeah, and
watch and
I
wait.
agree. I agree to Lisa D, what you're saying. Yeah. When it first happened, I was shocked, but the more you see the learn, it's becoming obvious. It's like a psyop. Absolutely. We so shocked by so many things that go on in the world that nowadays most of us have woken up to it around here. Thank God. But there are a lot that haven't woken up to these things yet. So yeah, we just got to take this one step at a time. As I said, at least it's got my one family member asking questions, like,
That's a good thing. That's very positive. And
Chantal.
People will wake up, they'll start realizing, gosh, what is actually happening here? I don't understand it. The moment you get to that point, then you start questioning, which is really all we can ask for, is people to question and question and
Mm,
then question again, and just decide more or less where you fall. If it's one of those where you need more information, which most people do, then get that information, start reading, look further, pick up a stone, look underneath it, understand. Because at the same time as
totally.
well, you've got a huge international court case that's happening at the moment, where individuals have been called to and been subpoenaed to court in the international court, which has now had all sorts of threats around it. And you would wonder then, well, if individuals have been subpoenaed to court to answer specific allegations, then what is happening with everybody else that needs to go? Does this tie in? There is something much wider happening at this moment in time, but not all of that has become obvious. And I think it will in time. Before the end of the year, we'll understand why all of this is happening. And at the moment, we're living history in the making. That's what's happening. The energies are showing the historical value. And in time, by the end of the year or January, we will then understand what it is that we're living through right now. Because history is being made daily.
Totally. And we are making history just by being here.
We're trying our
Thank you.
best.
We've never ever done a podcast before in the living memory of the planet. So here we are doing a podcast. You see, we've made history. I love it. But thank you so much. Always having a wonderful conversations with you, and yeah, super interesting and informative. So thank you so much for
It's a pleasure.
joining me and all of us again this morning for you. Now that you're an Americana, Okay.
Americano. Yeah, it's a whole. It was early. Well, it wasn't early. It was about 10:30, 11 o'clock. But yeah, it's actually very good. So it means that the rest of the day is going to be boiling hot and outside, which is going to be good. And hopefully, it will be one of those that we have a fantastic day and maybe see a bit of the sea today, which will be wonderful.
Wow. Well, you know that as Dottie says, Florida is full of cryptids. I hope you find many today because I
Oh,
know
I
you
hope
love
we
them.
find one.
They love
I hope we
them.
find one. I
Yeah.
just want to put it
Not just one,
under my arm, and take it home with me. I want
yes,
one.
like a little teddy.
Yeah, so cute. It's so
Yay.
cute.
Okay, guys and girls, always a pleasure to have you with us on a Monday night here as we're shooting the breeze with the lovely Beverli Rhodes. And we are looking forward to next week, Monday, when we chat with you again. And in the meantime, I will have you see you guys back on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and on the weekend. Beverly, before you wrap it up for
Yeah.
us, where are you? Where can our viewers find you over the next few days? What
Over
are
the
you up
next few days, also we're going to be doing a sacred fire tonight. So we're going to be doing a sacred fire. So if you would like your name to be included, I'm going to be putting a big piece of paper into the fire to send positive healing. And obviously, Chanti, your name will be on there anyway. And there's
I need
some
the biggest piece of paper, babe. I
biggest
need
piece
the
of,
biggest
you
piece
need
of
a big piece of
paper.
paper. Yeah, what do you like? What do you like, really? But I'm going to put lots of names. So there's some really nice, there's friends and family and yourself and others. So if you want to have your name added onto the list that I'm going to put into the fire this evening, it's
It
going to
is
be a proper
beautiful.
sacred fire, which is lovely, which is going to be overseen by the Muskogee Nation. There's somebody that will put this, and we have two people actually that will be there, and they will set it in a special way. It's beautiful to watch. And then we're going to be watching the stars and asking if anybody up there wants to pop down and say, "Oh, of course we will add Mother Gaia." Absolutely, the truth. Yes, we will add the Creator, and we will do the north, south, west, east, west, and up and down. We will do that as well. But if you have somebody that needs healing, I do a healing list every Sunday anyway. But if there's someone that you feel that really should be going in the fire, then just add that onto awakeningacademy.co.uk. Just pop that in the emails there, and then we'll scoop those up when I come back later, because we'll have to wait for it to get dark here. It's obviously not dark here yet. And then we'll set the fire and do that. But yes, awakeningacademy.co.uk, there is a form there just to send a message, and then we'll scoop up everybody's names and put them into the fire, send you some blue light healing.
Yeah, guys, as you said, I know there's a few names popping up in the comments now. So just follow the link that Beverly just said and just get your name on the list. This is a
Yes.
nice list. Thank you, Bev. Appreciate
Thank
you
you so
so, so
much.
much. And appreciate all of you in the chats and for engaging and joining us. And guys, please give us a like, share, subscribe. It keeps our algorithms up. Leave a nice comment, or even if you want to leave a comment and it's not so nice, I guess that's fine too. If you have to. Well, I actually don't have to ask some of you to do that because I get them without asking.
And maybe one day when I work out how to use the whole system on YouTube, I was thinking maybe one day I would like to interview you, turn the tables around, come and interview you on my channel. But I have to work out how to use it first. Yeah, I know. Because I have no idea technically. I know it's ridiculous. I am working it out. I'm trying to work it out. I know. So one day I'll say to you, I've worked out how to do it. I know how to do it. Please come and do it.
Yeah. Well, then I'll be there, but we're gonna have to pre-record that interview.
Yeah, we
So
could
we
pre-record it. That's at least I think I have an idea on how to do that. I can't do it live. Lord, how funny.
Oh, lovely. Oh, wonderful. Okay, guys and girls, love you all madly and take care of your beautiful, beautiful, beautiful selves. And I will see you back on Wednesday with Jessie. And yeah, stay cool, stay kind, don't be creepy.
No, don't be
Don't
creepy. Bye,
be
everybody.
creepy. Don't be
Bye,
creepy.
everyone.